This next segment is one of my favorites. And we've done one or two of these before, but I don't know. I love this. So it's called You're Not Crazy, but. And the idea is simple. We all have habits, reactions, or inner monologues that we quietly, worry means something is wrong with us.
Or not so quietly.
Eh, Correct. And, maybe in this case, I'm asking for a friend. But anyway, we take one of those moments, put it on the table, not to diagnose it, but to normalize, contextualize, and hopefully understand what's going on underneath. So I have a scenario for you too, if you're up for it.
Absolutely. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So this is what it says. Lately, I've noticed something weird about myself. I get drained by messaging. If someone texts me, I'll see it and immediately panic about what to say. Sometimes I put off responding for days because I'm worried they'll think I don't care, or I'll say the wrong thing. I even caught myself staring at my inbox, choosing between 5 different responses, like it's a high stakes negotiation. It's exhausting. I work 40 hours a week. I like people. I just dread the act of messaging. When I finally reply, I'm relieved, but then I replay our exchange afterwards like it was a job interview. My partner says I should treat text just like normal conversations, but it doesn't feel that simple. Why do normal messages feel so psychologically heavy? Is this social anxiety, avoidance, a consequence of always being on and reachable, or am I just spoiled by modern communication?
All of the above.
Yeah. And by the way, I don't think it's the messaging that's exhausting this person. It's their anxiety. And I'm sure it's showing up in other places, not just
Yeah.
text messaging.
Yeah.
This feels like the somewhat more modern or updated equivalent, Dan, and I'm sure you've had these folks in your office over time that say, I don't mind communicating in any form as long as I don't have to make a phone call. Phone calls are
Hmm.
draining, they're anxiety producing. And that's been probably the most common um, iteration that I've seen in my office. This just feels like the updated version of that because, of course, what we say in text messaging then is there for the review in the record in the way a phone call isn't. So I kind of get where maybe that social anxiety, perfectionism, high performance is kind of coming in for this individual and kind of swamping them in their ability to communicate
Yeah.
in a more easy breezy kind of way.
And there's a reality of text messaging in that if and I forget, Gail, you probably remember the statistic, some massive percentage of our communication is not so much the words, but the tone, inflection, like 80, 90%, I don't know, but
Yeah.
tone,
I would have said
tone,
80% of.
inflection,
Mhm.
and the other sort of meta part of it that we can't natively include in a text message. Now, we have this wonderfully inventive way of doing it where we add in emojis or other things to tell people what the emotion of it is. But still, this is open for interpretation because an emoji to me may not mean the same thing, especially cross generationally.
Yeah,
Um,
no, absolutely. I think a great example of that is the hands that have been interpreted as praying
mhm,
versus clapping versus high-fiving,
mhm.
which are three very different things all rolled into that single emoji.
Yeah, and I heard a younger person tell me it was like 2 years ago now, so it might no longer be valid, that the thumbs up emoji is sometimes indicating sarcasm, or a
Oh,
period
sure.
at the end of a sentence indicates that you're angry
Yeah.
or annoyed. I'm not. I'm just old and use
Yeah.
punctuation.
Yeah.
So, like there, it could be some of that, but I think this is just. I agree with you, Gail. I think this is that the person has anxiety, and the anxiety just has attached itself to this text messaging, which does have a pressure behind it. There's an expectation when I receive a text message that I'm going to respond rapidly. Um,
Yes, and I think this has to do with our being a social species and not being able to adapt our social constructs as quickly as our world around us is changing. And I
right.
tell people all the time, the reason you worry about these interactions is because people matter. And you might say people exhaust me, but that's just the very thing. That's the paradox of it.
Yeah.
People and relationships matter and our social structure matters, and that's why you're worrying about this at a very deep and core level. We still need these groups, and we still need to feel connected and a part of things, and we're really terrified that something we will do will exclude us from that belonging.
Right. Right. So, the short answer there is their anxiety makes sense, but it's likely not the text messaging is a place where it is manifesting, but that's not the problem. I don't think. The
Yes.
problem is anxiety, and we want to address the anxiety. Text messages is the thing.
Right, exactly. It's the expression of, and we would do some
Yeah.
really good work around the anxiety and help them unpack why in this particular format, maybe even
Hmm.
come up with some solutions to kind of give themselves permission to limit this. This seems to be leaking all over the place. And so often therapeutically, we would give them a little bit of what I often call guardrails,
Hmm.
so that you can feel a little bit more held by it and not let it just spill out into the rest of your free time.
Yeah. And we'd be going down like what probably, I don't know for sure, but in all likelihood, this person's having all sorts of like negative automatic thoughts that are
Yes.
cropping up around the text messaging, and we want to look at it like, are these thoughts realistic? Are they accurate or inaccurate? In what way are they inaccurate? How do we create more accurate thinking around these negative thoughts so that they may not be, I mean, some of them might be accurate, in which case, okay, we'll accept them, but some of them may be inaccurate, and we want to give that person the opportunity to push back on those inaccurate thoughts. Yeah, good cognitive therapy 101 kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, one of the things that people online responded to this was they said, things you can do are turn off your notifications, turn off your read receipts, turn off some of those things. I'm curious, like, I don't know, are those, I don't know, I struggle with that, right? Like, I don't know that that fixes the problem. It just delays it maybe, or
It
I don't know. What are your thoughts on those kind of interventions technology wise?
it depends. I would say it really depends on whether this is a boundary. Like I sometimes mute group chats that I'm in. Like I just need to not be bothered by this and not think about it because it's going to disrupt my day. So I'm going to mute this for 8 hours, and there's a setting to mute for 8 hours, and then I don't have to look at that or think about it. And that's a kind of a protective boundary. On the other hand, like if it freaks me out and I'm having intense anxiety, then it might be avoidance, and avoidance makes anxiety worse, not better in the long run. So I guess it depends on why you're muting them. That's my thinking on it. Gail, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I often will start with what's the intention here? Is the
Hmm.
intention to protect some time and space, create a moment? Like, what is that? Or is it simply to delay this inevitable and then you're going to sit wrapped up in it, and it's still going to cause you harm rather than setting that limit that then actually is um, the opposite of causing harm, right? Doing you a benefit or being helpful. And so looking at that, deconstructing that a little bit. And they might say, well, it helps me right now because it relieves my anxiety. Yes, but when you turn it back on, can you show up? Can you engage? And if the answer is no, I want to mute it for another 8 hours, then it is avoidance. And avoidance can be a coping strategy in the short term, but as you said, it makes anxiety worse in the long run.
Yeah.
So the other thought I'm thinking about, just kind of think you guys talking about boundaries and like how you define those. I know when I am trying to be creative and if I'm writing, one of the things that really helps me is to kind of compartmentalize the parts of my day. So like I'm going to write for this chunk of time and that's all I'm going to do, and I'm going to set the phone aside. I'm not going to worry about it. And then calendar time for those kind of responses. Um, but I'm I guess I'm also kind of wondering, like, if you have, I've never communicated that to like family or friends or whatever. Like, hey, don't bother me between 7 and 9 a.m. because I'm going to be doing a creative thing. I don't want to be distracted
Hmm.
or whatever. I'm wondering what, do you have a language that you might recommend to like tell somebody? Because if you have a loved one and they're the one who's causing the problem, maybe not even a work thing, what does that conversation look like? Because I feel like you should probably name the problem, because maybe telling them that it's causing you
I
anxiety might help as well, or I don't know.
no.
Okay.
No,
It
I
depends on what you're protecting. In this particular instance, I agree with Dan. I don't think it's particularly helpful to name, hey, text messaging really causes me anxiety. I'm going to delay my responses to you by 24 hours. I don't think that's helpful. I think there are other things that we might do or interact socially with that we would want to protect. Makes totally good sense to protect and we might name,
Mhm.
but not in relationship to the problem that you just brought up.
It's okay to not respond immediately. Like we don't have to respond immediately. And we all know like, oh yeah, so and so usually responds within minutes. So and so often waits. I was actually waiting for a message back from someone yesterday, and I'm like, oh yeah, this person almost always seems to take like a day. There's nothing wrong with not responding immediately to every message that comes through to us. A message is a request for a response, but the answer can be, like, at least in our heads, like, yeah, not right now. And I don't think we're obligated to respond immediately to any outreach unless it is noted to be emergent, in which case you should respond with, I can't handle this right now, but whatever.
I love that. A text message is a request for a response. It makes me remember, and I think I've told the story before, in high school when my high school psychology teacher talked about the phone ringing as an invitation to answer the phone.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
just an invitation.
Right.
And as a teenager, I was like, what do you mean? It's a demand, right? And I
Oh.
think, like I said, I think I've told that story before, but that's what it reminded me of, is just checking our thinking around, what does that ding of your phone mean? Does it mean, is it a demand? Is that how your body is experiencing it? Is that how your brain tells you, or what that story gets filled in as from your brain? Or is this a request or an invitation, a reach out? And then in that case, you actually have choice and you have agency.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's fine to say that the answer can be, I'll get to it later, and it doesn't have to be a conversation around it. It can be, a non-response, again, within reason, because there is some expectation of responding. But I think it's not the expectation that we often think it is. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. I'll be sure to pass that on to my friend, and if he or she requires additional assistance,
your friend Michael.
I mean, Michael's a very common name, so maybe.
Fair enough.